Nick Stark is the guy who looked at the flaming junkyard of CTV and said, "Cool, where's the wrench?" This is the ADOTAT Show, and today Nick runs GoGoCTV, which sounds like a kids app, but is actually the plumbing that keeps streaming ads from collapsing under the weight of bad metadata, missing signals, and replaced_mean pretending it's a genre. So if you've ever wondered why your premium inventory sometimes monetizes like a yard sale, congratulations, you're in the right episode.
Okay, so glad today my guest is Nick Stark, the man who looked at the flaming junkyard of CTV and said, yeah, I can fix that. Today, Nick's the CEO of GoGoCTV, which sounds fun and friendly until you realize he's basically building the plumbing that keeps the entire streaming ad ecosystem from collapsing under its own bad metadata. So first of all, the hardest question of the day, Nick, how are you? And you're not allowed to say busy, because that's what executives say when their Slack DMs look like a crime scene.
Yeah. No, things are going great.
So you built GoGoCTV to sanitize the data cesspool everyone else pretends is a spa. When did you finally realize that CTV needed an exorcist, but not another dashboard?
Boy. So I would say about 4 years ago, I was running the ads business for one of the large OEMs, and we were working with several of our different CTV partners and you know, the streams coming in with them and the ad requests coming in. We would just continually see a lot of missing data, whether it was content genre, content rating, title, IP address, device ID, really critical things of information that we need to be able to give to advertisers to make it enticing for them to buy. And so a lot of times we just saw that missing, and or sometimes it was just bad data, whether it was inadvertent or not. So a really common thing, we'd see a lot of pieces of metadata like replace_me, right? So it'd say like content genre, and then the content genre was replace_me. So we saw a lot of that, and it directly affects your ability to monetize your inventory. And so really I started recognizing it probably 4 years ago at this point.
So when you talk about dirty metadata, is that what we're talking about? Are we talking about minor typos or full-on identity theft for ad tags? Because in ad tech, we've learned that dirty often means billable.
Well, I mean, certainly people can do some nefarious things. And if you're considering dirty to be manipulating those pieces of metadata in order to boost fill rate CPM revenue, we're not really focusing on that so much. I mean, that's more of the IVT detection companies. That's really their bread and butter. We're more looking at, you know, is the data there? Is the data accurate in terms of some of those metadata signals? Whereas they have algorithms they're closer to the client side. So they're looking at those signals at both ends and making sure that things make sense, right? They don't have, you know, user agents that don't exist, or a user agent for a device that doesn't match the manufacturer of the device, things of that nature. They've got tons of algorithms to detect those types of things, those anomalies that don't make sense and shouldn't be monetized.
Is there an example where bad metadata cost someone the entire campaign?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've seen certainly for us, you know, things like not including some of that channel information, which is really critical information for advertisers. Channel genre rating, a lot of that we've seen where stuff is running and generating revenue and buyers are buying. And then a single piece of metadata missing, we've seen it reduce revenue by 90%. So yeah, some of those, even a single signal can have a very major impact on your ability to monetize that inventory.
So why do you think that smart companies let their data rot? Is it ignorance, laziness, or a little bit of Stockholm syndrome?
I guess overall, I would say just poor leadership. I mean, to us, data is the rocket fuel to the rocket, right? It's the most important thing for us. Everything builds off of that for us. Anytime that I've been in a company that lets their data go stagnant or not utilize it, not even to the fullest, sometimes they're just not using it at all. It's just a wasted revenue opportunity. And I don't know if that's, you know, sometimes that's other priorities. Sometimes leadership doesn't understand the potential or the power of that data. But certainly I've seen it personally, you know, in other places that I've worked besides GoGoCTV, and we see it, you know, in some of the folks that we work with as well.
Eric Troutman, the czar of the TCPA, isn't just the guy you call when your phone rings too much. He's the guy you must call. Need to navigate the legal minefield of robocalls, texts, and telemarketing nightmares? Troutman doesn't just give you advice. He hands you a roadmap, a compass, and a do not press this button sign. Practical? Yes. Actionable? Absolutely. And if you're not calling him first, let's be honest, you're probably making a mistake.
So let's be honest, if half the industry fixes data overnight, how many middlemen would vanish in smoke?
I honestly don't think that many, because there's not a lot of middlemen that are fixing data. Maybe there are some people that, like you mentioned, that might be modifying data to try to improve fill rate and CPM or whatever. But I don't think there's a lot of middlemen that are really fixing data. They might be changing it or manipulating, but not necessarily fixing it.
Right. So what do you think the single biggest lie that people tell themselves about their own CTV setup is?
I don't know if they tell themselves, but oftentimes they believe this lie that their CTV ad stack is set up properly. And a lot of times with CTV, we see different types of commercial deals where you might see an inventory split, a revenue split, et cetera. It's very, very common for us to see commercially where somebody's done an inventory split, where it might be a 50-50 inventory split, or even like a backfill position, things of that nature. And when we go in and we have mechanisms to be able to test the plumbing and make sure that all is all set up correctly. And it's very, very common that when we take a look at the commercial contract of our customer, or they tell us what the terms are, like, hey, we're 50-50 inventory, and there's some language in there that they should get priority before promotions are run and things of that nature. We go in and we actually will audit that and find that it's not true. So I think the lie that people believe is that what's going on in their CTV ad stack and the splits and all that they're supposed to be getting is actually working properly, and it's not. And we've actually seen some scenarios where people are just taking inventory, they're not even contractually allowed to do that. And they're just taking inventory and pocketing all the revenue themselves. So having those audit tools is really important to do that. And the other thing is that just because we run an audit and we find that everything's true today, it doesn't mean that somebody either intentionally or inadvertently can't bump something in the ad server and what was working yesterday is not working today. So we continually do these checks to make sure that people are getting the inventory and the revenue that they're contractually obligated to.
So everyone claims to be data-driven, but half the industry drives like it's texting while blindfolded. How did the cult of optimization turn creativity into a hostage situation?
I sort of believe that in a lot of cases, the solutions that we've come up with are just simply too complex. And when that happens, a lot of times the sort of domain knowledge, there's fewer and fewer people that understand how the systems work. And that's when things start to fall apart. So I think, I don't know that there's, in a lot of cases, a great solution that's more simple, but that's just what we see. We'll see maybe the IAB puts out a spec to do something and it becomes increasingly more complicated. And fewer people in the industry understand it. Not only do they not understand it, but then we'll see tools that are, not built to follow that spec because the product person didn't understand the full details of the IAB recommendation and things of that nature. So I think it's just complexity. It's to a degree the nature of the business.
Have you ever seen a campaign collapse under the weight of too much optimization?
I personally have not, but I guess that's sort of, to me, if it's it's sort of an oxymoron, right? If it was optimized, it wouldn't collapse, right? So if something did collapse because somebody overworked it, it by definition is not optimized.
So why are marketers so addicted to dashboards that, as you explained, they may just not understand?
I think it's because they know that the truth is in there somewhere, right? They know that it's somewhere in their data.
Files for the Adtech. The truth is out there.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So the truth.
If last touch attribution worked, your waiter would get full credit for the meal. We make sure the chef gets credit too. Incremental.
The truth will set you free, right? So they're looking for that. And I think to a degree, everybody kind of has to become their own data scientist and look for those answers in the data. So I think that's why people are so addicted to the dashboards, is because that's their conduit to that data, right? To kind of see if they can figure out where the opportunities lie.
So, but if there's like one metric you could outlaw tomorrow, what would it be and why?
This may not sound great, but I'll say it anyways. And it's percentage IVT. And the reason why is because not that we're a proponent of IVT or SIVT or anything of that nature, but we have seen some IVT companies that their algorithms are wrong, and we can prove that they're wrong. And in some cases, we've been able to work with those IVT companies to adjust those algorithms once we prove to them that they're not correct. But I do think that.
But what are they in general mistaking for? What are they like thinking that TVs are toasters?
No, I mean sometimes they just. Well, an example would be anything even that new to the industry. Like let's say it could even be just a new app or a new device that's coming into the market, and a lot of stuff is working off of white label lists for CTV. Like if it's not on my white label list, don't traffic it. And it can really hamstring a new company that has a valid device with valid inventory, valid, consumers watching that content. And just because it's not on that whitelist, people aren't buying against it. And everything's valid. So we see simple cases like that really negatively impact a content owner or a platform. And you have to hit the streets. You have to go around and socialize with all these different, demand partners, what it is and whatnot. And in some cases, we have to prove it, which is fair. We'll provide supporting documentation and show that everything's legit. But I guess in general, we've seen several cases where the IVT companies are a little bit too heavy-handed. And, for them, it makes sense. Like their job is to protect the buyer and the DSPs to make sure they're not buying nefarious or, IVT inventory. But it's better for them to play it safe, be safe than sorry. And so some of those algorithms are a bit heavy-handed.
So every CEO loves to say, move fast, but Adtech latency is the only thing that truly moves fast. How do you lead a team when the industry clock runs in milliseconds and egoseconds?
Well, I guess for me, one of our key things is just hiring. Like all of our team is really battle-hardened, and they're all Adtech veterans. They've got the scars. They know the pace. They know how the industry moves. So for me, it's relatively easy to manage them because they're used to it. They've been doing it for years, right? And then for us, like our technology and everything allows us to pivot very, very easily. The fact that we own our own technology and have engineering and all that, if the industry pivots, we can make adjustments very, very quickly.
Did you have anything go down yesterday with the Cloudflare crisis?
We did not. We were not affected by that. Most of our infrastructure goes through AWS. And even when AWS went down a couple...
My newsletter blocked me as a threat for 4 hours. I couldn't actually edit anything. It was a day off for about 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, exactly. The majority of our infrastructure is on AWS.
Yeah, so a bunch of people clicked. They said, you should have AWS. I was like, it's not my choice. I don't run the newsletter. I don't run Beehive.
Yeah.
But I got a bunch of comments. AWS. It's really, of course, the people from AWS also commented that. Stephanie Laser and them, they're like, we know the solution.
Yeah.
So what is your actual daylight? Is it firefighting or fortune telling?
For me specifically, I would say it's more fortune telling. I mean, just my role within the company, it's more providing strategic vision and driving product and things of that nature. Whereas if it's firefighting, it's more so my team. The team that I have can handle pretty much anything that we can throw at them. So they'll typically put it out and then report back to me on what happened in our daily sync.
So can you name a situation where moving slow actually saved you?
I would say hiring. I mean, we move very slowly on hiring, and I think even the last couple of questions kind of point to that, where moving slowly on hiring and picking the right people, I think it saves us on a lot of stuff. There's a lot of different situations that come up that my team, they've got a lot of experience and they can handle pretty much anything thrown at them. So I think moving slowly on hiring and picking the right people has saved us on a lot of things.
So what's the hardest part about leading technical talent that thinks that they're actually smarter than you?
Technical talent. I would say it's actually not that difficult. As long as, I think ego is okay as long as respect remains intact. We don't want any type of toxic culture within the workplace, but generally speaking, I mean, if somebody's smarter than me, that's the way I'd prefer to hire. I would rather have everybody in the room be smarter than me on my team. So if somebody's smarter than me, particular subject matter expert or otherwise, I would prefer that. So managing that to me is not difficult as long as their ego stays in check with respect to, respecting the other teammates.
So one of my fun hypothetical questions, if GoGoCTV were a band, what role would you play? Lead singer, drummer, or the manager yelling about royalties? And I know everyone thinks of the lead guitar, but you're not.
No. For me, I'd definitely be the manager yelling about royalties. So I'm not the lead singer or the drummer. I'm definitely kind of behind the scenes, just driving where everything's headed, making sure the bus is loaded and we got everything and we know where we're going next.
And what genre are you thinking of? Because, honestly, I think everyone in Adtech thinks they're punk, but they're usually just country.
Well, I would probably say that I'm country. I got a lot of, I think for me in my background, I've got a lot of country in my background. So I would say country.
So when this era of CTV chaos actually stabilizes, what leadership skill do you think matters the most?
I would say probably strategic foresight. The ability to kind of read what's coming next and sort of position ourselves to take advantage of that opportunity.
And what helps you get a strategic foresight besides a crystal ball?
I'm sorry?
What helps you get strategic foresight besides obviously a crystal ball?
Our process is a lot of it is listening to our customers. We're very much, because we do ad operations as a service, we're very much boots on the ground. So we are right in the middle of everything, right? We're getting feedback from our content customers. We work directly with advertisers, so we get feedback from them. And also just, being plugged in, it's super important for Adtech. Anybody in Adtech for any length of time knows that it's a very small community, and it's very important to stay plugged in with that community on what's going on. What's the latest, with the trends, with whether it's an IAB initiative that they're working on, or, sometimes there's things with things like the supply path, like how are people using S-chain object and ads.txt files and the values within them. Some people are following the spec, some people are not. So like staying on top of those types of trends helps us to foresee what's coming down the road in order to kind of stay ahead of things.
So I want to talk about one of my favorite topics, probably because I'm still not sure if I agree with it, if I actually believe it exists or not, is the economics of attention. Someone commented on the show once that CTV is all about attention, but by nature, everyone's paying attention to CTV. So, but still, and I've been writing this for months, no one can still define attention without a PowerPoint. So what is your actual currency? Is it impressions, seconds, or sanity?
Well, I guess for us, we measure, a lot of the data that we measure is off of results and impressions and revenue. So I think I would have to lean more towards the impression side in terms of like what our currency is specifically. We're very much a results-driven business.
Right. So how does GoGo measure value when every buyer defines it differently? Like I might want inches of ego per CPM.
Right. Well, for us, anything that brings incremental revenue lift, I mean, that could be a myriad of things, right? That could be system tuning. That could be something that's like an AI solution. Data can provide incremental lift. First party data, improved quality of inventory is always a good one. And, really any type of unique offering that could provide an incremental lift is something that we place value on.
So isn't attention just viewability of lipstick?
Yeah, I would say so.
So and one of the problems I think is everyone's so obsessed with price, especially when it comes to attention. Can you recall a moment when a client's obsession with price actually ruined performance? Like this $2 CPM that cost them $200,000?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of price, I do think, boy, it's a tricky one. I guess if I could provide an analogy, it'd almost be like a homeowner that's selling their home and, maybe the home is worth, call it $1 million, and they think it's worth 1.3 million, but they're willing to stick it out for the right buyer. That sort of analogy can happen in CTV for ads as well. I mean, and you could almost spend an hour talking about just this one specific topic, but fixing a price and rigidly adhering to a price is almost never optimized in a market that's continually moving, right? You've got market adjustments based on supply and demand. And if your pricing is not adjusting dynamically, you're probably either leaving money on the table or selling it for too cheap. So yeah, I mean, there's certainly cases, and even there's some of our partners that we're plugged into either on the supply or the demand side that want to rigidly adhere to a certain price. And there's certainly, it's definitely not optimized. So we'll still make those connections and run them dynamically when it makes sense, but it's certainly not the best way to set things up.
So how much of the ecosystem do you think is dynamic pricing versus fixed pricing?
Well, it's shifting. But if you look at, if you go back and you look at sort of the web setup for most of the industry, there is a lot more dynamic than it is for CTV. For CTV, we're still seeing a lot of people that want to set up like fixed price fast tags and things of that nature, which generally speaking aren't taking advantages of some of the things like, price flooring, which in our case, we could do dynamic price flooring or, dynamic Tmax timeouts where you're dynamically setting action timeouts and things of that nature. So we are seeing some people that are sort of extending the vast requests to now accept a price floor, but still it's still a lot of the industry is still set up very rigidly with fixed price vast tags.
So what's a pricing myth that you wish would just disappear?
I think one would be that I think a lot of people think that news has no value. The news as a sector. A lot of, buyers are staying away from it and, the whole fake news thing. Ultimately, you've still got a lot of your demographic of your users, whether it's, whoever your target audience is, a lot of that still exists within those news websites, right? So as long as you can target them, it's still the same user that you're going after as an advertiser, but a lot of people just place no value on that and won't go after any of the news inventory.
So do you think long term that we should short or long human attention if the CTV was a stock market?
Personally, I'd go long. I mean, I'm obviously biased, but I'm very bullish on CTV and its opportunity and its growth. And it just it's not even every year we see it get better. It's every quarter we see it get better. inventory gets better, the user experience gets better, attribution, everything's getting better. Like every quarter, it just takes a little step forward.
So what happens when attention becomes too expensive to buy?
I don't know. I think the natural economics of the open marketplace, I don't know that will be an issue. The question would be too expensive to buy for who, right? If it's too expensive to buy, it means that somebody's buying it at a higher price. It's just too expensive for, maybe a smaller or medium sized buyer that can't afford it. They may
So
get
everyone wants
priced
to
out.
talk about AI now, and we're at the point where AI can write taglines, design logos, and probably pitch investors. Has creativity become an unpaid intern in the age of automation?
I don't think so. I mean, look, AI is awesome. We use AI for a ton of stuff, and we use AI tools for different things in-house as well. I have yet to see AI that's kind of a full replacement. It's just another tool in our tool bag. So in terms of like, is it an unpaid intern? I would say no. It's probably just another tool that the unpaid intern could use to produce something that is actually at a level that is ready for market.
Have you seen any AI campaigns that actually impressed you? And I don't mean like technically, but like emotionally.
No, I've seen some pretty good ones, but nothing I don't think I ever get emotional over anything that AI can do. But I've seen some AI-driven products and results that I've been very impressed with.
I think that Jean-Claude Van Damme ad, where he was like between the two trucks, I think that emotionally affected me on some levels, just partially because I knew I could never do that. So why do marketers keep on calling automation magic instead of the obvious, which is it's math?
Right. I think it's because it's more than math. It's really incorporating, more than just math. It's data graphs, intelligent decisioning. So yeah, it's with math, there's only one right answer. When there's automation, there's algorithms and decisioning in there that incorporate other, association, making association between different data sets, creating graphs in that, in that regard, and sort of making some decisions based off of that. Yeah.
So
math
in the future,
is black
let's
and
just
white.
say,
The automation is not.
let's just say AI actually creates a Super Bowl ad that makes you cry. Do you think it should actually win a Cannes Lion?
Absolutely. Why not? Right? Yeah. If you can,
And
if you can build
who gives the acceptance speech in that? Like the server, the cloud?
I think that would be appropriate. Yeah. I think if AI built it, then, it should be able to represent itself in its acceptance speech. And it very well could.
And what do you think the future of taste is when algorithms decide everything?
Oh boy, taste is so subjective. I would say, white is the new black, I guess, will be the taste of algorithms.
So my favorite part, I get to crash everyone in the industry on a desert island with only solar-powered Roku and one USB stick of code. What is the first thing you would build? A CT ad server, a coffee machine, or a signal loss detector for rescue?
I'm biased because we have our own ad server. I would have to go with ad server. I don't know what good
And
it's going to do me on the desert island, but it'll keep me busy and I'll have a good time doing it.
And what piece of ad tech do you think is actually the most useless for a desert island?
What piece of ad tech do I think is the most useless?
Yeah, for a desert island. I mean, like latency scores, obviously, for me, but what?
Yeah, I would probably say any type of mediation layer is the most useless on a desert island.
And what skill from running GoGoCTV would actually help you survive, or do you think maybe just you get eaten faster?
I would say the skills that we have for problem solving definitely would be applicable to being stranded on a desert island. So every day it seems like we're faced with a different problem, and we're constantly coming up with solutions.
And next, suppose the island's wildlife represents the ad ecosystem. Who do you think's the predator? Who's the prey? And who's the consultant charging hourly?
Boy.
And if you didn't know, consultants are always the mosquitoes.
Wow. I don't know if this is going to be a very popular answer, but I would say the platforms would be the predator. The content owners would probably be the prey.
And then sad.
Yeah, it really is.
You should definitely speak for ad monsters. They would love that.
Yeah. Consultant charging hourly, I would have to say an ad agency.
Yeah, I put publishers as stranded turtles. So I think we're on the same.
Yeah. There you go.
And the buyers are seagulls. They're noisy and entitled.
Yeah.
You're offered rescue, but only if you refuse to say AI again. Deal or die?
Never say AI again. I'll take that deal. I love technology, but I could live my life without it as well. I would take that deal.
And what do you think solitude would teach you that scaling a company never could?
Just the quiet. I think it just teaches you that there's more to life than business. As much as we love doing ad tech and technology and helping people with that stuff, there's sometimes, it's good to just go touch grass and get away from it.
Well, speaking of touching grass, we're going to get you back to civilization and talk to the man behind the metadata. You spent your life fixing systems that lie. So I have a really honest question. What is one lie you have told yourself just to keep going day to day?
Pretty frequently I feel like I'm constantly telling myself that I don't need sleep or don't need as much sleep, just kind of burning candle at both ends. And so, yeah, I think that I don't need sleep.
As you get older, that's one of the things you lie to yourself. That and that your hair will actually get darker.
Yeah.
My beard's going to get darker again.
Yeah, exactly.
Not unless I use something artificial. What's your personal debugging process when things fall apart? Do you meditate or do you curse in JSON?
Wow. We deal with, so many things come at us all the time. It's certainly like, I don't curse in JSON for sure. I think a lot of what we do first is just make sure that we're clearly understanding the problem. And then for me, it's assembling the right people on the team to drill into it, just because there's so many different layers and so many different pieces of technology, identifying what the problem is so we can kind of zero in on where it might be happening and put the right team together to solve it.
So swallowed something. If there was Founders Anonymous, what would be step one?
Founders Anonymous?
Right.
Boy, I think the beginning of the process is just ideas. I think you hear, the thing like ideas are like elbows, everybody's got one kind of thing. So
everyone has I thought step one is always admit you have a problem. Isn't that always the number one? I don't know. I don't actually know the 12 steps.
I haven't gone through the 12 steps of some of these other addiction programs, so I don't know.
Can you share a moment where failure was the best bug in your life?
Where failure was the best bug in our life?
Right.
I don't think so. I can't think
of
any.
Never failed.
I wouldn't. Well, I mean, other than when we're looking at any type of failure, we're looking how we can grow from it.
Right.
But I don't know that that's necessarily the best bug in my life.
Does a 404 ever mean freedom?
It can, depending on the situation. So if you want like a specific example of that, sometimes you may have a network connection that's passing a ton of traffic that's not performing. And so just simply disconnecting that can be a good thing.
Yeah, sometimes I just I've had websites and I just love deleting them after 10 years. There's something freeing about that. And then you go to it, it's not there anymore. Especially if you sell your domain. So how has running GoGoCTV changed what you value outside of work if, of course, you actually have something out of work?
Running a company, it just takes a lot of time. So I think running a company, it really emphasizes the value of your time outside of work, time spent with friends, time spent with family, doing the things that you love with the people that you love. So I think it just reinforces that, as a focus.
What do your friends and or family think you do for a living?
TV advertising is generally what I tell them.
You like booking stuff for the Super Bowl and shaking hands, and you're Don Draper.
Right, exactly. No, I don't know. What we do is so complicated that it would take a while to explain it to somebody that's not in the industry. So we generally if I'm talking to friends and family, we just sort of water it down and tell them that we work on advertising.
How many of your friends and family talk to you about the reoccurring ads? I get the tampon ad 5 times over and over and over again.
Generally not too many. I've had a couple, but that generally hasn't come up too much about getting the same ad over and over and over in the same pod and all that. I mean, my wife shows me her a lot.
Every single time she shows me her iPad, she's like, look, this ad's still this is like the 4th time it played, as if I can do something, which is funny because I've actually taken pictures of people's ads and put it on LinkedIn, and I go, I need to talk to our media buyer about it. So maybe I can do something.
I think more than the duplicate ads, what we hear more feedback is about ads that come in that are for Propecia that are totally not relevant to somebody that they just see over. It's not duplicate ads in the same pod, but they see that same ad all day long. That's totally not relevant.
I get Propecia in Spanish, which is awesome because, of course, 1/20th of Arizona speaks Spanish, and somehow my IP is mixed with someone who speaks Spanish. So I'm an elderly Mexican suddenly.
Yeah, so we get more of that, like sort of these poor targeting. Some of these media buyers that have a big budget, drug companies and whatnot that can just cast a wide net. We hear more feedback about that than we do about the duplicate ads in a pod.
Honesty again, do you think success in ad tech requires a mild personality disorder or just an actual full one?
Probably just a mild. I think, at least for us, a lot of us, I feel like, are sort of gluttons for punishment. The ad tech industry in general, not just for CTV, can wear people out. And so I think it takes a special type of person with a special type of resiliency, but to not only survive, but to thrive within this space.
So do you think paranoia equals foresight?
Yeah, I don't think paranoia equals foresight. I wouldn't equate the two together.
If you could have one superpower other than healing the sick, which is what you already chose, how would you use it in business or life?
I would probably choose to see in the future. And then for business, I would basically use that, obviously, to detect the future and come up with the most valuable innovations to respond to that ahead of time. So be on top of it.
Yeah, I would just have like a power to skip meetings, like fast forward. What was that? Was that movie, Click, I think it was, or something like that with Adam Sandler, where he fast forwards through things? That's what I do. Fast forward through meetings. So last but not least, when all the dashboards go dark, what still makes you feel human?
We sort of touched on it earlier. It's really just kind of reconnecting, taking time with family, and kind of going out and touching grass, just unplugging from work and doing the things that you love to do. That's what life's really all about.
And last but not least, we get to make you prove that you're human by dancing.
That's a wrap. Huge thanks to Nick Stark for walking us through the part of CTV everyone depends on and almost nobody wants to look at, the plumbing. Metadata rot, phantom value, audits that actually work, and why half the industry is confidently driving with the dashboard upside down. If your revenue graph suddenly feels personal, now you know why. Thanks as always to our sponsors Troutman Amin LLP, the lawyers you want in your corner when the deal gets weird, and incremental.com, helping marketers focus on what actually moved the needle instead of what merely looked busy. This has been the ADOTAT Show. Stay bold, stay curious, and know more than you did yesterday.